to focus on a very unique program and a very unique professional risk. MGM Resorts set out to provide cultural and diversity training for its 62,000 employees. MGM Resorts is one of the largest employers in the state of Nevada. The taxes from MGM Resorts actually account for more than 12% of the Nevada state budget. Okay, just think about that, all right? Michelle DiTondo is here with us today. She is their Senior Vice President of Human Resources for MGM Resorts. Please help me in welcoming Michelle DiTondo. We're going to have a different format than the typical PowerPoint presentation. And why? Because MGM decided to do their diversity training as a musical. We're going to watch some film clips from the performances. Some of them are exhilarating, some of them are very touching and very emotional. Now bear in mind, MGM is an entertainment and hospitality company, but every member of the cast is an employee volunteer, and not one of them is a professional performer in any of the MGM shows, okay? After each clip, I'm going to have some Q&A with Michelle about what we've seen and how her team built this program. Michelle, thanks for taking part in the 2014 HRO Today Forum.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations to you and the MGM Resorts organization for being given the HRO Today Magazine Award for Sustainable Workforce Programming. Now, the Shared Expertise team was fortunate enough to see the cast do the live performance at our corporate responsibility event, the Commit Forum, last October in New York. The audience was at times cheering, and at times they were tearful. The only criticism we got was we should have had Kleenex on the table, because it was very emotional. So get us started on how this program came into existence, a little bit about MGM Resorts for the audience.
Well, I think to talk about how we got to this program, you need to know a little bit about who we are as a company. And I think you'll see, you're familiar with some of our brands, but I want to show you who we are first.
From the images in the reel, it's obvious that MGM Resorts International is much more than a gaming company, more than a hotel chain. So tell me, why did you want to give 62,000 employees, give diversity training in particular, and some of your other cultural training to 62,000 employees, and how do you even go about undertaking such a thing?
Well, I think as you see more about this program, it's a unique program that not very many companies, I think, could do. So the message here isn't, how could you do something similar? We're an entertainment company, and so in our employee dining rooms at our properties, our employees who have normal jobs like marketing or finance or front desk or bell are sitting next to Cirque du Soleil performers, is a normal day for us. And so as an entertainment company, we had the resources to be able to do something that was a little different. And so when we started to think about how do we train 62,000 employees, my team who run the MGM University started to brainstorm, well, we could have a 2-day training program, which we've done in the past. We had a diversity champion workshop. It took us 10 years to get through 11,000 leaders. And so we didn't think that we had that amount of time. So even though we're a unique company, we had a common problem that probably all of us share, and that's we acquired the majority of our properties through mergers and acquisitions. And so through years of mergers and acquisitions, we're much more like a holding company than one company. We had properties that had ingrained cultures, properties like Circus Circus that had been open for almost 60 years, had been acquired and had separate mission, vision, and values. And in 2010, our chairman said, one company, one culture, one set of mission, vision, and values will help to improve our business. And so my team started to think about how do we get that message to our 62,000 employees? And the idea that they came to me with was, what about Schoolhouse Rock? Because we thought the 2-day training program probably wasn't going to work. It was going to take us years, decades, to get through 62,000 employees. And so our director of our university came with this proposal, and she said, remember Schoolhouse Rock? And all of us who were in the room immediately thought of, I'm just a bill, and conjunction junction. And that's how I today know how a bill becomes a law, is from Schoolhouse Rock. And so that's how the idea came to be was, you know, if something like Schoolhouse Rock can be catchy enough to teach a generation of millions of children what a conjunction is and how it's used, can we use that same idea using our company's resources? Can we use that same idea to teach our mission, vision, values, and our perspective and our belief in diversity?
So what was the reaction of, and the process of approval? I mean, getting the executive team to buy into Schoolhouse Rock, how was that easy, hard? Did everyone jump on board? What was the sort of the reaction of the executive team?
It helps. Our chairman is a man of big ideas. He built City Center during the worst downturn in the economy and the worst time in hospitality in our recent past. And so he's a man of big ideas. And so as soon as we presented to him, he loved it. He was on board. So we spent months convincing our CFOs that it was worth the expense to have this impact on our culture. So
let me just interrupt you for a moment. By the way, their chairman is their former CFO. So I want everyone in the room to know that once someone stops being a CFO, they can get nice again and be rehabilitated. Okay? Go ahead.
So we had a whole presentation that we would save the budget for the last thing. So once people were shaking their heads and nodding about the idea behind Schoolhouse Rock, and we had storyboards like we were trying to find producers for a Broadway show, that we went executive group to executive group with this idea and what we thought the results would be. And then, you know, I said, you know, save the money for last until they're on board, and we'd slide the budget across is where we had the most challenges. But through a number of presentations and with the support of our chairman, we were able to get it approved because one of our property presidents has an analogy. Renee West, who I worked with closely when I was HR leader at Mandalay Bay, and she was the property president. And she would always say, and this is her version of rip the Band-Aid off, but she would always say, you know, when you have a pool and it has algae in it, you don't gradually put a little bit of chlorine over time and hope it gets better. You shock the system and you dump a bunch of chlorine in there, and it gets it gets better right away. And so that's what we decided to do, was shock the system or rip the Band-Aid off and really take on something that I think was innovative and out of the box, a huge risk, but a huge, huge logistical project as well.
So what was the reaction, we talked about the executives, of the employees when you called for volunteers for the MGM version of Schoolhouse Rock, you know, when you held your first conjunction junction meeting? Were they enthusiastic? Were they surprised? How did they react when you went out looking for the cast?
Well, given that it's Las Vegas, I think, you know, probably similar to Los Angeles or New York, a lot of employees are repressed performers, former performers. Our director of the university who proposed this was actually, she was a former professional dancer on Broadway, came to Las Vegas to perform in Siegfried and Roy, got our master's degree, and eventually ended up in HR and in training, and was a director of the university. And so we had a lot of employees. When we said, we're auditioning, and we didn't say singers and dancers. We said, do you have any talent that you want to highlight to be part of a company-wide training? And so we had 130 employees in Las Vegas show up for the auditions, run like any other audition for a professional show that you would see. But we selected from there a cast of 70 employees. Some just, talented people, some who played instruments when they were in high school, some who had performed professionally years before, but were now working as supervisors or frontline employees throughout our properties. And so our employees were really excited about it, even though they had no idea what it was going to be.
So what did it look like when they started putting the show together? I think you have something to share with us, showing us sort of how the show looks.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an idea of, this was the first number in the show, and this was the piece that really linked with Schoolhouse Rock to teach our employees what our mission was: to engage, entertain, and inspire.
When our mission was first written, it was created to guide all employees at every level, in every department, and in every job. Now that mission became a guiding force for our company and for each of us, and it can be summarized in 3 words: engage,
bienvenidos,
entertain,
entretenidos,
and inspire.
y inspirados.
2, 3, 4.
Engage, entertain, inspire. That's what we do each day. We're out to engage, entertain, inspire. Every guest in every way. We want to engage, entertain, inspire throughout our company. Engage, entertain, inspire. Keeps them coming back, you see.
That's our mission, to make sure every guest is engaged, entertained, and inspired. Engage, welcome our guests, make them feel at home.
Bienvenir a nuestros invitados y hacerlos sentir en casa.
Entertain, recommend a show, restaurant, or sign them up for M-Life.
Entretener, recomendar un show, restaurante o firmarlos para M-Life.
And when we get the first 2 right, we inspire our guests
Inspirados.
to come back again and again. 2, 3, 4.
Engage, entertain, inspire. That's what we do each day. We're out to engage, entertain, inspire. Every guest in every way. We want to engage, entertain, inspire throughout our company. Engage, entertain, inspire. Keeps them coming back, you see.
Now we have some core values that tie our mission together. They are teamwork,
Trabajo en grupo,
integrity,
integridad
and excellence.
y excelencia.
T-I-E, teamwork, I got your back.
Trabajo en grupo, yo te apoyo.
Integrity, do the right thing.
Integridad, haciendo lo correcto.
And when we nail the first 2, we're on our way to excellence.
Excelencia.
And achieving our mission, which is...
Engage, entertain, inspire. That's what we do each day. We're out to engage, entertain, inspire. Every guest in every way. We want to engage, entertain, inspire throughout our company. Engage, entertain, inspire. Keeps them coming back, you
Now
see.
your turn.
Engage, entertain, inspire. That's what we do each day.
Sing with us now.
Engage, entertain, inspire. Every guest in every way. We want to engage, entertain, inspire throughout our company. Engage, entertain, inspire. Keeps them coming back, you see.
The funniest part of that was, first of all, it's a great Spanish instructional video too. Michelle is up here and she's like bouncing to the music, like she's still excited to like watch the video. So this is not a 62,000 employee company's not a pool, okay, and this ain't algae, right? So I think for the people out in the audience who think about how to do employee orientation, let's talk about what the discussion inside the HR suite about doing this as a big bang versus taking like pilots out and checking the response. I mean, this is really the revolution versus evolution decision that you guys made. So explain what you guys were talking about inside about the rollout and doing it as this, big bang kind of thing and the logistics associated with that. So
the logistics were crazy to think of, and there were more than a few times that we said, it can't be done. So on the Las Vegas Strip, we have 50,000 employees. And we're fortunate enough that we do have an arena, and so we had a place where we could fit up to 7,000 to 8,000 people at a time. So, you know, we had to think about how do we get within, the Las Vegas Strip is about 4 miles long. How do we get people from the furthest end, which is Circus, up to Mandalay Bay, which is on the other end, to go through a 90-minute training and then back to work. And then on top of that, you have when that front desk agent or that housekeeper is attending training, somebody needs to be doing their work. So scheduling people to perform their job so that our guests were still serviced while employees are attending training was another logistical issue. Things like, and you know, HR professionals would know this, just when do they clock in? How do they get on the bus? How do employees with disabilities get on the bus? How do they know which bus to get back on when they leave the arena so that they don't go to the wrong property? How do we discuss with the union how many hours this is going to take? Because we have multiple union contracts across our properties. We had 75 buses that day, which is almost every bus available in Las Vegas. And 2 days before we launched this, the bus company we'd given a check to went out of business. So we had to find other people with buses to transport our employees. It was on the news, and we're like, wait, is that our bus company? So, you know, just to make it a little bit harder, we had 900 employee volunteers that were like tour guides that helped employees to exit, make their way to the arena, make their way back onto the bus, and get back onto the bus to go back to work. So it was a huge logistical project. We ended up training over 40,000 employees within 3 days. We had 3 sessions per day. And our employees work 24 hours, so we have to do them at all times. So 3 sessions per day between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. Our chairman spoke at every session, so he was there with us at 11 o'clock at night. We offered to him, we said, we could play a video for some of these, and he said, no, it's important to me. I want to be there for every session. So he did his piece and spoke to all of our employees at each of the sessions. Some of our senior leaders were in the front row for all 9 sessions at all times of the day. But we were able to train over 40,000 employees over those 3 days. And we did do it at a time that historically in Las Vegas, that time between the National Finals Rodeo and Christmas is one of our slowest times of the year. So our arena was free, our occupancy is low, so it's a time that we have a lot of flexibility with employees.
Now, for the benefit of the people in the audience that may be thinking about doing something similar, you will rent the arena out, right?
Yes, we do rent arenas out, and we will give you rooms if you want your employees to come to Las Vegas to do the training.
And just remember, what they learn in Vegas stays in Vegas. So for many companies, it's really hard to determine, you know, it's a little bit like navel gazing at times, but it's so important to determine what are the most important aspects of the culture that you want to highlight. So how did your team decide what aspects of culture you wanted in the show?
You know, going back to 2010 when we decided one company culture, and we got a group of leaders together across the company to decide on what are those important messages. So in 2010, we defined our mission, vision, and values as one company versus multiple companies held by one company. And so we knew that we wanted our employees to know, first of all, our mission, which is the video that you just saw. But then what's most important to us, and I think is core to who we are as an employer, is our corporate social responsibility message. So diversity is part of that, and treating our employees with respect and dignity. Our green initiatives and sustainability is part of who we are, as well as philanthropy. And so those messages were the things that we said, if we have 90 minutes with our employees, what did we want them to walk away with knowing? We wanted them to walk away with understanding their role in our mission, but also understanding what's important to us as an employer. And so I'm going to show the next clip is our sustainability initiative is called Green Advantage. And one thing I want to say about the employee who's in this, who wrote the performance as well as the music that goes along with it, He's a housekeeper at Signature, so his day-to-day job is cleaning rooms.
Green advantage, we should all be trying it. Understand the impact of the environment. Taking care of our world, we can't forget that. And do what we can do to reduce the impact.
Vive sosteniblemente. Green advantage saves energy.
Think about the impact that we have on this planet Earth. This is the only Earth we have.
120 million kilowatts. Green advantage will save water by 500 million gallons a year.
Green advantage recycle. Paper, cardboard, plastic, metal, and glass. Guess what?
Every MGM Resorts property in Las Vegas has earned a Green Key Eco rating.
Yes, food.
Green advantage promotes green buildings.
City Center has received 6 LEED Gold certifications.
Now what can you do?
What can you do? What can you do?
Put the world back together. The top is better. Now what
Together, we will make a difference now and for future generations.
we can do a lot together.
So one thing that's important, because I think, you know, I kind of cringed when we said we're going to do a musical. I'm like, don't call it that. It's really training. And there'll be some follow-up action steps. And so one of the things we did with our Green Advantage program was we asked employees to commit to a sustainability initiative either at home or at work following this program. And we introduced the idea of what can you do? And so a lot of our employees who don't know what sustainability is knew from this that they could at home recycle or do something that contributes to the earth. And so we had thousands of employees follow up and commit to doing something sustainable either at home or at work.
Well, that raises an interesting question, though. If you think about it, it's sort of like a chicken and egg thing, and we hope a locally sourced chicken and egg thing, because that's more environmentally sustainable. But do you think that there's something about MGM Resorts that attracts people who already have these values, or is this something that you're instilling in them through the culture? You know, which do you think is it? Do you look for these attributes in your hiring process? How do you think that works? Is it the chicken or the egg?
I think it's both, because I think we're known for our corporate social responsibility initiatives within our communities that we operate. And so people come to us because they know our reputation as an employer. But we're hiring housekeepers. So we don't expect housekeepers to know about LEED Green certification or about sustainability. And so starting with new employee orientation, which we adapted our new employee orientation to follow these same messages. We use some of these same video clips and some of the exercises in our new employee orientation, which we do 3 to 4 times a week with 60 to 70 people in each class. So we hire frontline employees. 90% of our employees are hourly. We hire them, and then starting from day one, we teach them about our mission, our vision, our values, and our beliefs around our corporate social responsibility initiatives.
So let's talk about another value, diversity. It's very important to your culture. I know that from knowing a bit about the company. It's a really sensitive topic, though, depending on how you want to bring it to bear. So in the context of this kind of program, whatever, how did you address that? How did you address diversity?
Diversity was a key component to us because it's probably the most ambiguous term for employees to understand, especially our frontline employees. But diversity and inclusion is key to our business because we have millions of guests in a year throughout the world. I mean, they come from all different countries, they have all different walks of life, and so how our employees treat our guests and make them feel welcome and included in our property is key to our business. And so that was one of the areas where we were willing to take a significant risk, was how do we explain diversity to our frontline employees? And I'll show you the clip on how we did that.
Individual who spends time with us or works for us comes from different backgrounds, different cultures, different education levels, and different life experiences. Each one brings their own unique talents and abilities, and each one is valued in their own way.
At MGM Resorts International, we celebrate diversity.
We accept accountability to acknowledge and to value the contributions of all people.
No matter who you are or where you come from,
here, you are not invisible. Sawabona.
Sikona.
I see you. I am here. I have a dream.
See me?
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
That dream, that vision, grew from my own experience with racism, with hope, with a desire to be treated fairly and to see my people treated as human beings and not as chattel.
It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
Costs are incurred whenever any group is treated as lesser or the other, whether they are women, racial or religious minorities, or the LGBT.
I have a dream.
I see you, and I hear what you say about me. Old white guy with gray hair from that generation. Must be prejudice. Easy life, college graduate, now tired and getting ready to retire.
Dating, I don't speak English, but I do. Some people ask me, do you speak English? Yes, I do. May I help you?
How do you think it made me feel when I was standing in line at the airport gate and you pulled me out of line and said I was too big to fly? I could see you over there saying, I don't want to sit next to her. She's too fat. She'll take up my seat and her seat.
In 2006, I finally came out to my family and friends. And I'm so happy that I did because they accepted me and loved me even more for who I was.
But can you see me for who I really am? A Christian, a happily married man of 6 years, a college graduate with a bachelor's degree in hotel administration, and a very proud father who prides myself in tucking my kids in every single night. I have a dream. See me.
You don't have to be one of to stand with. There's a light in the darkness, though the night is black as my skin. There's a light shining bright, showing me the way. But I know where I've been.
So how many of you go Motown in diversity training? Just raise your hands. No.
So the lead singer in that is our ticket office supervisor at New York, New York. So when he auditioned, we're like, wow, that's in the ticket office?
When we saw him at Commit, I remember saying that guy should be on American Idol. I mean,
yeah, he's awesome.
He's
a great guy too, a great person.
So that's very emotional. How did it affect the employees when they saw that? I mean, you saw the reaction of this crowd, and they don't even know these people.
It was the most compelling piece of the program because we took a risk in talking about some controversial topics, and we knew they would be controversial. We had overwhelmingly positive feedback, and I think for the employees that, some employees auditioned without really having a talent, just said, I want to be part of the show. And they weren't dancers or singers, like the woman who talked about coming out to her family. She was there because she wanted to do the testimonial part of the show. And when we went to our property in Mississippi and when we went to our property in Detroit, we had those pieces of those roles were filled by employees from those properties. And so we told personal stories about employees that were specific to each of the locations. So it was compelling to our employees because they identified with their coworkers. So whether it was age discrimination, sexual orientation discrimination, weight, ethnicity, language, there was a story for everyone that really emphasized the importance of diversity and inclusion and why we need to respect the differences of others. But it was an emotional piece of the program.
All right, so I'm going to take it out of the context. We just talked about some really very touching things about people, but we need to get back to data for just a minute because I'm sort of a math geek and people know that. So how did you define success, and then what were the metrics that you used to actually measure whether you were meeting those goals through this program?
It was important for us to have follow-up because this could have been a big flash in the pan, the musical, we put everybody through the program and then we're done. And so we had a lot of programs that built on this, and this was kind of the launching pad so that when we launched Green Advantage programs, employees would know what it was and what it meant. So we had a couple of measurements that we had. We had our second year of our company-wide employee survey. And we have about almost 60% of our employees in our second year completing our employee survey, which for us in our 90% employee population that don't have access to a computer is a huge endeavor for us. So in our employee survey, we saw a significant improvement in our diversity and inclusion index, which have questions like, or items like, our supervisor treats us with respect and dignity. MGM Resorts respects differences among employees. We also saw an increase in pride in the company and who we are in the community in our employee survey. But the other things that we saw when it gets down to action, where our board asked us to set a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal around philanthropy. And so we set a goal to have 100,000 volunteer hours from our employees. And that year we reached 109,000. So they thought it was a big, hairy, audacious goal, and it actually turned out to be something obtainable. Since then, we've had over 200,000 volunteer hours from our employees. And then we've also saw an increase in participation in our employee foundation. Each year we run a foundation campaign. We run our own MGM Resorts Foundation. The company pays for all the administrative fees. But our employees annually with their campaign give about $4.7 million, almost $5 million from their paychecks. Employees at all levels in the company, and we've seen the increase in participation in our foundation.
That's great. That's fabulous. So how do you finish a presentation like this? And we may have a few minutes after to take some questions from the audience, but you got to finish with the big finale. So let's roll.
This is the closing number.
If I stand alone, I am so slight, so small. With you by my side, I know that I could never fall. No one knows how great we are until we try. Can't stop time to pretend, 'cause we can make a difference. The power to inspire is the greatest gift of all we can give. When we work together, we will be an inspiration. We are the change, we stand as one. What are you gonna do to inspire our world? What are you gonna do? What you gonna do to inspire our world? What you gonna do? What you gonna do about it, baby? Oh, each and every one of you have a responsibility. Yeah. We can do this with excellence and teamwork. Yeah. With integrity, we can build a foundation of love. Folks, please put together your hands for our fellow co-workers of the cast of Inspiring Our World. Put your hands together, put your hands together. Come on! What are you gonna do to inspire our world? Yeah, yeah, yeah. What you gonna do? Yeah. I can feel it. I can feel it. Oh, yeah, oh,
And that employee is, she's a blackjack dealer at Luxor. So if you went to go visit her.
You know, one of the things that's been fun for me from up here, which we don't always get, in HR conferences tend to be sort of, you know, dry and clinical at times. How many of you are looking at the screens? I don't even know if you're conscious of how many of you are just looking at the screen and smiling, okay, which was really cool from up here. We have time for a couple of questions, if you will. We have about 5 minutes left. So if you have a question for Michelle DiTondo, Senior Vice President, Human Resources, MGM Resorts. We have a question right here. There's Bill Hatton, our editorial director. He doubles as a mic runner. That's what he does when he's hourly. We have to pay him for that.
Well, fantastic orientation. I'm sure everybody in this room is inspired to go back and create their own employee orientation, but the fact is you at your foundation do this for a living, and that's what your organization does. Maybe put some financial perspective on this. How much of your entire HR budget was placed into this orientation mission?
So this was actually something
percentage-wise, don't give me the dollars.
Something we had to get approved outside of the budget cycle because we didn't think of the idea before we planned our budget. So the expense for this program with overtime, the buses, the overtime for the employees, to have employees fill their spot at the front desk was $2 million. But we also compared that as our presentation. We said, look, this is what we spent on our Diversity Champion Workshop over the last 10 years to get 11,000 people through training. We can get one company, one culture message out there within, and for our whole company, it was within a quarter because we took the show on the road to Detroit and Mississippi, but it was a $2 million expense.
Other questions?
That's it, just how much? How much for one of these?
Yeah, really.
Are you selling it? Yeah.
All right. Do you have a question back here? All right, Andrew, fire away.
You spent a lot of time on the production of the music itself. I'm curious if you play it in your facilities for your employees in the background, if you reinforce the messaging on a regular basis. Do you do that?
Yeah, so it's reinforced through new hire employee orientation because we thought, you know, how do we sustain this? With a $2 million expense, it can't be just these 3 days. So we did put resources into recording it, and we made sure all of the songs in there are original, and so we own the rights to them. So a few things that we do. We teach it, and it's a big part of new hire employee orientation. Each year, our properties have done things for years that we've linked to this called recharges. They're kind of like an employee rally that each property has. So we do annual, each property is required, although they're fun, to do an annual recharge where they reinforce this message. But then we followed up with things like a Green Advantage program where employees, we ask the question, what can you do? And they commit to, and they get points, reward and recognition for doing sustainable things, you know, at home or at work. So we've continued the message beyond that. And that was the one criteria our chairman said. He's like, I love the idea. I think we have to do it, but it has to be sustainable. It can't be a flash in the pan, you know, program that we do. And that's why I'm always leery about talking about it at HR conferences, because I think it can be viewed as superficial. And you know, you put a bunch of resources, and we're a Las Vegas company, we have this big show, and then it's done. And so programming was built and launched immediately after this to support the messages, which was a key part of us getting approval. He said we couldn't go forward unless it was going to be sustainable.
Well, Michelle, thank you. Thank you to the entire MGM Resorts family for sharing this with us today. I want to congratulate you once again on winning the HRO Today magazine for CHRO Sustainable Workforce Award. Folks, big round of applause for Michelle DiTondo and the MGM Resorts.